Well, hello, and welcome to Beyond the Sermon, a Bethany podcast where we have the privilege of digging deeper into our Sunday messages. I am Tammy DeLau, and today I am joined with Pastor David Bexley and Pastor Steve Musto. And people have questions, brothers.
Yeah.
This girl has questions.
Who knew? Who knew that teaching Revelation would engender questions?
I just thought you were going to tie it all up in a nice little package.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great?
Yes.
No such luck.
Okay.
I'm not that good. I don't know anybody that good. I remember walking out, though, of my Daniel and Revelation class in seminary and going to the train in Chicago and sitting down and going, I just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know what to do with all this information.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody feels this way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump in because we need to answer these questions,
All right.
or answer a few of them anyway, I should say. All right, I'm going to try to do a flyover. So I feel like my brain is in a million places, but last week you were in a lot of chapters.
Yes.
So, and we were looking at the judgments. And so specifically you spent ample amount of time looking at those 7 seals that were opened. So we see John sad, who can open the seals are opened. Kind of wish those seals stayed closed, but we saw those judgments. So we looked at the seals, but we also know there are bowls and trumpets. Is that the other one? And trumpet. Okay. Yep. And so the one thing I heard you say was this is not necessarily that there are 21 different judgments that we're waiting for. It's fuzzy. We know they connect, but we don't know how they connect.
Yeah.
So whether or not it is angle, we're looking at a scene from different angles. The analogy that I had today too is, you know how you watch a flower blooms, but you watch it in slow motion and you see what really happens? Are we seeing some of it even in slow motion as we're watching it? Yeah. So that was something that came to me. So that's kind of where we were last week. I know one of the misconceptions that we all we hear words like, we've heard words like rapture and how all of that's going to happen.
Tribulation,
yeah. That's another word that we hear.
Tribulation is in Revelation. Rapture is not.
Okay. 7 years, that's a time that we've heard. I have no sense of direction. I am the girl who stands at the mall, at the kiosk, and it says, "You are here." And and that helps me. Because I know,
me too.
I know
awful.
that the store I want to go to is to the right and up a level. I know the question that people are asking and I kind of know what the answer is going to be, but I need to ask it. Where are we on the timeline? Where am I in the mall? Where am I?
Yeah. As we look at everything, everybody wants to know the answer to this. And I think we need to turn to Jesus when his disciples asked him and it was like, whoa, okay, so when is this going to happen? And Jesus was like, I don't know. It's the only time that he said he didn't know something. And he said, this is up to the Father. I've submitted this to the Father. And so this is the Father's decision. It's not my decision. And this does all kinds of things to our concept of Jesus and who he is and God and everything else. And but on this, on at least this point, at least while Jesus was on earth doing his ministry, he had purposely asked God not to reveal that information to him, or God had chosen not to reveal that information to him for whatever reason. Perhaps so that he could say, I don't know. I mean, maybe that would be, the best.
So he wasn't lying.
Yeah, well, that's right. And but also, it's another way he enters in with us into not knowing. Not knowing drives us crazy. And so it's another way that we can say, oh, Jesus is like us because he doesn't know. Or didn't know when he was human, and we don't know. So the way I've described it is this: we've walked up to a stream, and we can't go any farther because the stream is too far to cross, and it's too deep, and on the other side is eternity. And so what we're doing now is we're walking along the stream bank.
Okay.
And at some point in time, Jesus steps across from the other side. We find Jesus on our bank. There he is. And he says, come, I'll lead you over to eternity. But we're just walking along right now, the riverbank.
So if we can't know when or where we are in the timeline, is it good to take a look at why we want to know and maybe look at some motives of our heart? Like why do we want to know?
Yeah, I mean, I want to know when I'm going to die. I want to know how I'm going to die. I want to know when my kids were little, I wanted to know what they were going to be when they grew up. I mean, we just always do. We're always forward thinking. And as I said in the message last week, the tribulation is the scariest part for us. And for those of us who've been taught to think that the trumpet is going to sound and then there's a tribulation, well, am I going to have to live through that? Am I not going to have to live through that? And that can be frightening for people, you know, and as I shared, my personal belief is I think we're in it and that we're walking through it.
You know, as I grew up, hearing the stories, both the fictional stories like, you know, Left Behind, but also the sermons, it seemed to be that in trying to interpret all the political events and historical events to come up with some answer of where we sit on the timeline was meant to help us find some type of peace in the middle of chaos. And as I have grown in my own life, what I realized that actually robbed me from finding peace in Jesus. You know, so when Jesus says no one knows, he's reminding, I hear him saying, because that's not where the answer to that question can't be where you find peace. It's who I am, my presence, my promises to you, regardless of where you are on the timeline, is the source of your peace and your comfort. And I think almost in trying to form these timelines that we've sometimes hold on to for peace and comfort, we stop looking at Jesus. I wasn't told to look at Jesus. I was told to look at the answer to these questions, and it turned my attention the wrong way. And so as one that just grew up in that, knowing others are wrestling with that, I could say, I get it, because somebody turned our attention the wrong direction. And in a sense, as we study this more, we're being told to turn our attention over here, and it doesn't have answers, because we want peace and answers. Instead, what it has is character, God, who he is, his promises of justice, his promises of righteousness, his promises to take our prayers, as we talked about even this past week, and to act on behalf of those prayers. Like, that's meant to be the place we find peace. And I wonder if we don't know how to find peace in who God is as easily in situations like this, because we've learned to answers that I don't think the Bible ever intended us to find peace in. So
we're putting our trust in a legend on the map as opposed to putting our trust in the map maker. It's a trust thing.
I mean, it could be. I mean,
that's harsh, but for me, I think it is that sometimes.
It reminds me of recess.
Okay.
I love recess. I loved PE. Those were my times. Those were my favorite parts of the day.
Yeah.
And I could stand around waiting for the bell to ring. Like, when is the bell going to ring? Do you think the bell's going to ring now?
Yeah.
Like, do you think we have 5 more minutes? Do you think we have 15 minutes?
When you robbed yourself of the joy of recess.
Yeah, or I could play basketball and kick the soccer ball around and do whatever I wanted to do. And
that's good.
The best moments were the moments where the bell rang in the middle of, we were playing football or whatever, and the bell rang in the middle of the play, and we all had to go in, and somebody caught the ball, and it was like, well, we got to go in now because the bell rang.
Okay.
But we played right up until
the end. That's a good analogy.
That I would rather do that than be sitting around looking at signs that aren't really signs to tell us when the end is going to happen.
Last couple of days, I got to sit in Psalm 36 and 37. It was where I was with God, and it reminded me of this tension. Psalm 36 begins, and he's struggling with the wicked. It says, this is an oracle of the wicked. And after he describes the wicked, what does he do? He doesn't actually describe the righteous person. He describes God. His contrast of how to see what's happening in the world, the wickedness, is not to look at yourself to see how you're different. It's to look at God and to see how he's different. And then in 37, he goes into another psalm, and 37 is, hey, quit getting all frustrated and angry at all the wrong going on around you. And I was sharing this with my wife, and he says in verse 8, he says, listen, don't be angry or be enraged or be agitated by all the things going on around you that are evil. It only brings you harm. I just was sharing that. I'm like, I like to justify myself getting all enraged with all the things going on around me and all the things that need to get done, instead of turning my eyes to the one who says, I will deal with that.
Yeah.
Keep your eyes fixed on me. My focus on those things does my heart harm.
Yeah.
But my focus on who Jesus is gives me life.
Yep.
Okay, so another question, David, you spurred a memory because you had talked about the prayers. So I remember sitting here with you, and you were talking about the prayers and an incense burner, and them being thrown down, and the judgment happens. And so I'm like, well, have I really prayed prayers for those who are being persecuted, or am I only praying about myself? Whose prayers are in there? Is it only those prayers that someone is praying because of the injustice that's happening to God's people? Are they all of the prayers that I prayed for babies to get well, or miscarriages not to happen, or help me?
In the context of Revelation, and certainly in the context of the suffering of God's people, because it comes up right around after the sixth seal. So the sixth seal is, we have the martyrs in is that 5 or 6, and then right after that, we have the angel preparing the incense burner with the prayers. But what are the prayers? We go back and we look in Revelation 3 and 4 and 5. We start to see, coming out of the letters to the 7 churches, we have the scene in heaven, and everything is being set up for us. It's the setting. And then we're introduced to these prayers, and it's not necessarily that people are being persecuted. It's just the prayers of the saints is all we're told. And so my thought on it is that it's all injustice all over the world for all time. It's our prayer. It's the prayers in ancient Mesopotamia. It's all of the prayers that have gone up. There were people at the end, as Babylon was at the gates of Jerusalem. Jerusalem was about to fall. The people were going to be carried into exile in Babylon. There were people who dropped to their knees and said, Yahweh, you have been faithful through all generations. Please save us. And God said, no, not this time. And I've warned and I've done I've gone to all these lengths. And so, no, so Babylon is going to overrun. But what we learn in Isaiah 47 and 48 is that Babylon went too far. God used Babylon as an instrument to correct,
to discipline his children.
But they went too far. It was too hard a spanking, and it went on too long, and it became abuse. And that's injustice. And so there's a point where they took it too far. God is going to make that right. And those are examples. But, the ones that you mentioned, absolutely. There are court cases. There are people who've been in jail for years and years and years. They didn't do it. There are other people who are walking around scot-free, and they did something. It's injustice. That's got to be corrected. That's part of the broken world we live in. We're seeing in Rome. There's economic injustice. There's idolatry. There's all kinds of terrible things happening in Rome. And we only get a hint of them in places and in letters like Ephesians and 1st and 2nd Timothy and Galatians and others. We get little glimpses, 1st and 2nd Corinthians. So these are prayers that are going to be, that have been stored. They've not been ignored by God. And they're going to be part of the judgment on the earth when God makes all things new.
So I feel like I might be the keeper of questions, because people are coming up to me on Sunday and saying, "What about?" So I got a couple questions for you guys, and this is a good one as we're looking at what's going to happen and what needs to happen, because the earth needs to be judged, the Babylons need to be judged. Why did God create a being, Satan specifically, that he knew was going to rebel and use the authority he had been given for evil? And why did God create humankind knowing that we would sin? That's a tough question when you look at how ugly the judgment looks. And
it is the central question in all of philosophy, the problem of evil. It is the central question in all of philosophy.
Do you have an answer, guys? Or like a help?
I don't have one that's going to satisfy anybody.
Okay.
But I have thoughts. But
Okay.
and there are some folks who've done some good thinking on this and writing about this. But why would God do that? I think we look at things that don't work the way we wanted them to work, and we say that's defective and broken.
That's a problem.
That's a problem. It needs to be corrected. I built this thing and it's gone haywire, or I installed the dishwasher and it's, spitting dishes out. I don't know what to do. Water's leaking everywhere. I got to call somebody to come and make it work the way I want it to work. Because when something doesn't work exactly as we planned, it's no good. And one of the risks you take when you create something, if you're a creative person, is you don't know what is going to happen with that creation. You can't always control that creation. So when you create a poem, when you create a song, you don't know where it's going to go or where it's going to travel. Now, God doesn't have that problem because God is a masterful creator. And
all-knowing.
Very creative. He can do whatever he wants, and he can make sure that things don't spin out of control but in the case of this world, he chose not to limit Satan's ability to rebel against him. He chose not to pull Adam and Eve back from the brink. And we think that makes somehow either God defective or wrong or something out of his control. And I would just say anybody who's creative knows that's not true. At some point, for something to really be a creation, you have got to let it go its own way and do its own thing and not hold on to it. I liken it to, how long have you and Andy been married now?
40 years in June.
40 years. So coming up on, it just was 40 years?
No, it will be.
It will be 40 years. So if you discovered that you hadn't fallen in love with Andy and Andy had discovered a secret potion and he had slipped it in your drink and forced you to fall in love with him. And so
that kind of was it. I'm just kidding.
So for these 40 years, you've been, it hasn't been your choice, actually. That would be sort of devastating.
Yeah.
And I think at some point, knowing Andy, he would also have gotten into the relationship. Even if he'd done that, he would have gotten into the relationship and gone, she doesn't really love me. This is not real.
It's not satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no joy in this.
Because I tricked her into it, or I forced her into it.
Yeah.
And I don't really know. She's not choosing me for me. There's this joy when you're in love with someone that they choose to be with you, that they cancel plans with someone else to come and be with you, that they leave work early to come they still like spending time with you after all these years. All of those things. If that is induced because you forced it, that's not really love. And ultimately, I think that's the free will answer for me. Why does God allow us to choose to do evil things? Well, because if he forced us to love him, we're mindless robots. The fact that we choose to love him and follow him, that's actual love. That's what love is. It is a choice. It is, and to love someone through their worst moments. And for us to love God, even when we don't fully understand what he's doing, knowing that he has a plan.
Okay.
And I think when it comes to, I don't know how it worked with Satan and the angels, whether it was a one-time choice, whether angels still have the opportunity to rebel. I mean, I really don't know. And I've read a lot of different opinions on that, but I do know that Satan was given a choice. God created perfect. God doesn't create imperfect. God didn't create him with a defect. He created Lucifer perfectly. And at some point he had a choice, and he chose poorly.
But the underlying thing you're saying is that in creating with a choice, that is the perfect. When God created and he made it perfect, the choice being available was a part of perfect.
Right.
That's a part of good. If the choice is removed, it's not good.
Yeah.
So what God was saying was good was that option available to us. And at some point, there's an element of God as creator. If he knows what is good, and we believe that about him, any other alternative was not good.
Yeah.
And so we look at
but it's risky.
But yes. And so we look at the reality and say, but look at all this that isn't good. Yeah. The way we handled what was good, we messed with it. We messed with what was good. We destroyed it. We threw the grenade. Like we did that. But it was, if that option wasn't there, it wouldn't have been good to begin with.
Okay, so I don't even know if this is a fair question. What stops us from making the same stupid mistakes when Jesus comes back to earth and now we live in, if everything that you guys just said was true, I don't like what stops us from making a bad choice again and
Second
starting
verse,
this
same
whole,
as the first.
Yeah.
A little bit louder and a whole lot worse.
Yeah. See, we just have more questions.
The indication from the end of Revelation is that God is creating a world where that is not, he's going to remake our world, and those things are not going to be possible. So there is no more sickness or pain. There is no availability to sin or go outside his plan. And so it is a new and enhanced creation. So sin is not going to be possible for us. That doesn't mean that emotions are not going to be possible for us, but sin does not seem to be possible in the eternal state.
There's an idea, and as Steve said earlier, they don't necessarily answer the questions. They don't necessarily make us feel better, but even as God created good, now the good of heaven is fully good because of how we experience life now. There's an element of even what is for that good to be fully experienced is in light of the choice that was now given, that lost that good and then sees that good restored. And the problem is it doesn't ultimately answer the question that we're really asking, but God, why did you do that? Like, why is that the definition of good? And that's where you keep digging. You eventually get to this, but God, why are you defining it that way?
Mm-hmm. Because we know Jesus wasn't plan B.
Exactly right.
So it's like, it's just so mind-blowing.
And we can theorize answers. They're like great, as Steve said, great scholars. And there's some that I am drawn toward that it satisfy me. There's some Steve might be drawn to different than me that might satisfy him. They may be different answers even because they're theories, our best way of understanding. And again, I'll come back to what I said earlier. We want answers to make us feel better. Mm-hmm. The only thing that can make me have hope and feel good in these is God's character, is who he is.
Is believing that he's good.
Yeah, and knowing the goodness of God, knowing how he's revealed himself to me in scripture and through his spirit. And in the world that is chaos, that has all these questions that I wrestle so deeply in my soul and pain with, that I might cry over, the goodness of God is how he has chosen to answer that question to us at the end of the day. And for those that say, but that doesn't feel satisfying, I both will say, that makes sense to me. Yet as I'm learning in my own life with my own pain to go to God for his goodness, I might push back on you and say, I think it might be more satisfying than you realize. But it's a journey of finding that satisfaction in God, not a moment of it clicks and now I'm fully satisfied. Revelation shows us that's not till eternity.
You know, in Eden, there's a tree in the middle of the garden that provides the knowledge of good and evil and the ability to make your own choices. And we find another tree in the eternal state, in the new heaven and new earth. There's another tree. It's in the middle of everything, but it's for the healing of the nations. So we get new resurrected bodies that do not die, that do not decay. And with it comes a whole nother new way of living. So I think it's safe to say we're not at risk we will not be at risk of sinning.
Of
anymore.
doing it again, starting the mess over again.
Yeah.
Feels Twilight Zone-y or something.
Praise God.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have some people that are questioning the word rapture. It's one that you both have said today. It's not in Scripture.
Well, it's not in Revelation.
It's not in Revelation.
Yeah, right.
Okay, it's not in Revelation. So if we look at Matthew, there is a passage in there that talks about two people being in a field and one is taken away. Mm-hmm. And I know in some of our Bibles, we literally have the word rapture because there you have it. There's a rapture. How do we, I don't want to say unlearn, but how do we reconcile that tension that might be there right now?
Yeah. When we were in the Parables series, I taught on this, on the passage from Luke that talks about this. And one of the things that, so I'll go to the Matthew 24, the Matthew 24 passage is Jesus is going out of the temple. Disciples come up to him and they're like, "Isn't this building amazing? Isn't this just like the best thing you've ever seen?" And Jesus says, "Not one stone is going to be left on another. This whole thing is going to come down." And the disciples, and then they go out to the Mount of Olives where they're staying. And this is the week Jesus is, this is the Passion Week. I mean, this is the week Jesus is gonna die. And they say to him, "Well, when is this going to happen?" A couple of them come to him privately, and they say, "When is this going to happen? But they're asking the question, when is the temple going to be torn down? Mm-hmm. And so he answers them. And so his answer in Matthew 24 is all about the temple. And the clue to that, we have a couple different clues, but at Luke 21:20, he specifically says an army is going to surround Jerusalem, and then they're going to come in, and that's what's going to happen. So we know he's talking about the temple being torn down. So this is around 30 AD. The temple's going to be torn down in 70 AD. So not very long for them, only 40 years away from where they are. And then we get to verse 29 of Matthew 24, and it says, "Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not shed its light, the stars will fall from the sky, the powers of heavens will not be shaken. Then the Son of Man will appear in the sky, and all the peoples of the earth will mourn." That doesn't leave room for much of a delay. Certainly not a 2,000-year delay. Then also, the biggest clue we have is verse 34. "Truly I tell you, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things take place." So that whole section, Jesus talking about all of those things, is all talking about the temple, and the temple being torn down, and Jerusalem falling. So what the wording Jesus is using is taken exclusively from Isaiah and from Daniel, where he's saying the sun will be darkened, the Son of Man will appear in the sky. All of those things are taken from Daniel. And what he's doing, see if this sounds familiar to anybody, is he is speaking in figurative apocalyptic language, poetic prophetic language, just as Daniel and Isaiah were, to describe a cataclysmic event. It is the stopping of the way things have been. The end of the temple is the end of connecting with God the way it has been done. Really, it stops the moment Christ dies on the cross. Yes. Mm-hmm. But the end of the temple, for all intent and purposes, is the end of that phase. And then a new day begins, and the new day is with the blood of Christ. We've got to look at the text, not through the lens of, well, this is talking about the end times. where he begins finally talking about the end times is in verse
Is it 36?
36.
Okay.
Yep. So he says, concerning the hour, no one knows, neither the angels of heaven nor the Son.
Which is him.
That's him. He said, I don't even know, except the Father alone, as the days of Noah were, so the coming of the Son of Man will be. And then he tells a story about Noah and boarding the ark. And this is where he says, if the homeowner had known what time the thief was coming, he would have stayed alert, not let his house be broken into. This is why you're also to be ready. This is the two women will be grinding grain with a hand mill. One will be taken and one left. What is this talking about? What I believe this is talking about is the end. And but we have to ask a question. When Jesus appears, when Jesus arrives, we have all been taught he's arriving to take us to heaven. And this is one of the biggest misconceptions of Revelation, because we are so focused on ourselves and on Jesus giving us a hug and saying everything is going to be okay now. And it's not that that doesn't happen. It's that, why does Jesus appear? Jesus doesn't appear to make everything okay for us. We're totally self-centered. Jesus appears to take the reign and the rule of the earth and to put to death all the sin and evil and sickness that is here, including the dragon and those who follow him. Jesus comes to be a king. What do you do when a king comes to your city? Well, we saw this happen in Jerusalem. We saw it happen earlier in the week for Jesus from this story.
You stop everything.
You stop everything and you worship the king. Hosanna in the highest. The king is here. He has arrived. When we go, I believe we are going, 1 Thessalonians talks about, we're going to be caught up with Christ in the air. The dead in Christ will rise first. Resurrected bodies, people who have died, resurrected, caught them in the air while they're on their way up. Those who are still on the earth will be caught to Christ. This is not Jesus giving everybody a hug saying, oh, it's going to be okay. Here's a lollipop and whatever the equivalent of millions of
take you away to a safe room
of angel bucks are for you to go spend in heaven. That's not what is happening. We are celebrating him and escorting him, Hosanna in the highest, to earth as his people. He's coming. Here he comes. We're brought to the sky to form a big, long chain and celebrate and hoot and holler and high five each other. And can you believe it? Can you believe it? While he comes to earth, his feet touch the Mount of Olives and his reign begins. So that's why we're going to the sky. We're not going to the sky to go to heaven. I mean, Revelation is clear that he makes his kingdom here. He brings his kingdom here and remakes earth.
So it is a verse about something exciting. Something is going to happen. And
wonderful.
We are going to be in the sky. That's great. That's wonderful. But not to be taken away to a safe house. Yeah. Well,
let me take you guys away, and I'll put you someplace safe. And now I'm gonna do battle against all these bad people. That's all about our comfort. That's not this.
I realized when I first looked at this story, it was like 15 years ago, I realized I had let a popular song by original Christian artist Larry Norman.
Yeah, Wish We'd All Been Ready.
Wish We'd All Been Ready, speaking to my interpretation of this text. And then it was, for those that, are more my age, also redone by DC Talk, speaking to that and give me interpretation of how to apply this text more than actually my study of scripture. And one thing we see, Steve, you spoke to this in, we haven't talked about this beforehand, but you spoke to this past week in your message. You're going to hit it this week. The part of the judgments is eliminating the evil. It's a part of God's cleansing process. And actually, I think this also alludes to that as well, as it alludes to Noah. What was God doing in the flood? God left his righteous ones. He protected them. We see that in Revelation. And then what is actually removed from the earth? What is swept away? It was those, the evil, the unrighteous were swept away. And he says, so it will be in the day of Noah. And then he comes back and he gives this analogy of two people. Well, one is left. Well, the one left's the righteous one, just like it was in Noah. The one taken away, removed, is the unrighteous one that receives judgment. And so the idea of somehow the Christian is taken away is contradicting to the example Jesus gives us of the story of Noah. And just for those that really get into that, the text there in itself, even the analogy is giving us of what he's talking about is a reverse picture. It complements what you're saying, where it's the restoration. And then he goes into that in the next section, verse 45, as he gives the example of the faithful servant and the unfaithful servant. Again, the faithful one stays and is given more.
But the whole point of the narrative, though, is being ready.
Yes, so that's exactly right. I was coming back to the very end of that.
Larry was right.
Yes.
In that sense, I wish we'd been ready. And he just keeps saying, hey, be prepared, be ready,
and
be living as though it's going to happen.
It's not the intricacy of how.
Right.
It's the essential of something's going to happen. Be ready. And that's how that whole section in Matthew 24 closes. That's how Revelation's going to close.
Right.
Be ready.
Be ready.
Be ready.
Come, Lord Jesus.
Amen.
That's good. Okay, so this week you are going to talk about the 7 woes.
Yeah, this week is really, John sees a picture. John, if anybody understands what Rome is, it should be John. John should get it. And John has now not only seen all these visions, but he has been put through all kinds of things. He's seen Babylon crucify Christ. He's seen all of these things happen. Mm-hmm. And he should be the one who is least surprised by the depravity of Babylon. And yet when he has a vision of what Rome actually is, it's astonishing to him.
And how the tentacles, how deep they go and what they really touch.
Yeah.
And it's everything.
And I think what always surprises me when I read this section is what it is that God is judging in the Roman Empire. I'm always surprised because I just assume it's going to be, you're worshiping Zeus and Apollos and all of these, and that's a piece of it, but that's not even like the main part.
So stay tuned.
All right.
Sunday should be good. All right. Thanks, guys. This is always so fun. And thank you for joining us. Have a great week. Bye-bye.